Buongiorno and welcome to my new podcast, My Way of Thinking, or Mowat for short, Mowat, hosted by me, Lee Greeno, here live from the Man Cave every week. Now, My Way of Thinking is all about us, amazing human beings that all have a story to tell, and those stories can vary. Every time I get this wrong, can vary massively. I'm going to keep it in until I've mastered it. I swear to God. Can vary massively, but with the guests I'll be interviewing, you'll always be able to take a little bit of advice or insight into it's just all over today, isn't it? Insight in how extraordinary we can all be. That means you. Now, remember, there's only 4 rules. 1, no bullshitting. 2, no judging. 3, no negativity. And 4, have fun. Now, today I'm talking to Natsune Oki. Now, Natsune has come all the way from Japan. Well, she hasn't come all the way from Japan, of course. Via technology, I will be speaking to Natsune. Now, Natsune is just a great, great woman. Listen to her story. She's so positive. She's just hit the world head on. We talk about Japan. It's just a fascinating chat with a lovely girl, and she's got a new book out as well, so she'll be plugging that, and I want to read it, and it's just great. So make sure you keep listening to this brilliant interview. Here's me talking to Natsune. So welcome to My Way of Thinking, and today we have a very special guest all the way from Japan, the age of technology. It's Natsune Oki. How are you, Natsune?
I'm doing great. How are you? Thank you very much for having me today.
No problem at all. Isn't technology amazing?
Yeah, I'm so thankful.
It's great. It's great.
Yeah.
You know, you think years ago, I would never have been able to have guests from the other side of the world. So this is just brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that connects back to like why I'm basically, partial reason why I basically decided to like break by myself to like, go on my own journey.
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
it's just easiest, like the more than ever, like it's a perspective, like we take them granted, but it's incredible that we have this access.
The world is far more accessible than it ever was, isn't it now? So that's good.
I mean, yeah, like for many things, I think it unlocked. I mean, I guess we're gonna just go into the show, like the main show, but just
take it away. Take it away. Right. Okay. Well, we're going to talk all about you today. That's what it's all about, your book and everything you've been doing, which is great. But first of all, I'd like to start on some light-hearted talk. And today, obviously, you're in Japan. So I thought it'd be great to talk about some fun facts that obviously people in the UK may not be aware of, which is quite fascinating because Japan is a fascinating country. Obviously, you live there, so you probably don't realise it. But to us, it's like, wow, that's amazing. Okay, so here's one which I spotted. Japan does not have janitors. Streets in Japan are extremely clean, even in Tokyo, the capital and massive megapolis. All the streets are clean and have no litter. It all comes down to their mentality. Japanese people rarely leave rubbish on the streets. Also, volunteers, both young and old, clean the streets simply because they want to live in a clean city. Is that true?
Yes and no. Depends on where you go. Which part of obviously it depends on which part of the city you go. But yes, I have lived abroad. I have traveled many countries as well myself.
Yeah.
And compared to other countries, like Japan have a tendency to be cleaner, I think.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you're always going to get dirtier areas, obviously. But it's nice.
I used to live in a place called Shibuya. Shibuya is one of the capital, like a place within Tokyo.
Yeah.
And lots of like young people party there. So as you were stating the claim, I was thinking about
right,
the picture I usually saw in
the party. Yeah, forget the party, but normally, very clean. Okay.
Yeah, but major.
Okay. Now, another fact, 98.5% of Japanese population is Japanese. Today's world is becoming more and more international due to cultures. But this is not the case in Japan. Due to extremely hard visas and cultural mentality, it is a challenge for migrants to stay in Japan. On one hand, it protects their unique and ancient culture, but on the other hand, it is so closed off, it's bad for connections with the outside world and migrants. How's that? Is that correct?
50%, yeah.
Yeah.
50% correct, 60 even. But the government is making a lot of changes, which is also part of the reason why I started my own business here in Tokyo called Foreign Connect, where basically I'm the translator and I'm the change maker for corporations here who want to do business with abroad, like abroad businesses.
Yeah. Do you think that's because Japan, because they're like ancient and cultural, they want to try and keep hold of their secrets, or is it nothing to do with that, or is it to do with that?
Secret. Yeah, I mean, we grow up with very like a village culture, right? Like everybody kind of takes care of each other. But on the flip side, I guess we have a very strong mentality around group psychology and group, right? Like a group association with the people with a similar value, like, you know, and I think it kind of gives a space for foreigner to be excluded in that sense.
Yeah, definitely. Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. Next one. Now, 25% of the Japanese population is older than 65. Japan is facing terrible demographic problems because it's so hard to pay for children's needs like school, medicine, and many Japanese people simply don't have children. It's been this way for years. The solution for the problem is immigrants who don't mind integrating and want to have children. The Japanese government is now trying to open the country for expanding via immigration. Is that? Would you say that's correct?
Yep. That's exactly why I started Foreign Connect.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, this is one of the main, economic problem we're facing as well as an aging economy.
Yeah, because here, a big part of growing up and as you get older is, well, some people don't have children, don't get me wrong, but a lot of people want a family and want children. Is it the same there? Do you feel that way, or is it very much more very independent?
Oh, no. I mean, people do want the kids, but I think, I mean, this phenomenon did happen to everywhere else in the world who experienced like economic expansion, right? It's just a different season. And for us, it's hitting now, but then Japan, for some reason, is hitting at the late, which is remarkable.
Yeah.
Like the rates that people didn't experience in other side of the country.
Yeah. Is it that expensive to live over there?
Yes. In Tokyo, yeah. But I also used to live in the downtown Miami. Like I actually moved back a few years back.
Yeah.
And I don't know, comparing to downtown Miami, like Florida, America, right? Like I don't know if it's a good comparison, but I would say Tokyo is surprisingly a little bit cheaper than Florida.
Okay. Yeah. Okay.
It's a weird place to compare, but
I understand that. Okay, and the last one, and this one did make me laugh when I read this one. Many have heard that Japanese people have incredibly long work days. Officially, they have 8-hour days as the most part of the world. But in Japan, they have the mentality to stay for extra hours to show that you're willing to work. And this includes sleeping on the job. In Japan, if you are sleeping during the workday, it is a sign that you are extremely hard. Even though Japanese companies do the same amount of work as Americans and Europeans, workers postpone their tasks until evening to stay at work and show they're willing to do so. It sounds odd, but it is the Japanese reality. Can you sleep at work?
I mean, I don't know if the necessarily like sleeping at work is a sign to show your boss. I mean, I never heard of that. But it is true that Japanese people tend to have very like a stoic work ethic, which was proven also in my case. Like I didn't know I had a good work ethic, right? But I had opportunity to work with different nationality, like different people from different like nations, right? And looking back, like for example, when I was working in American company, like people were impressed how willing I was to work. And I didn't even consider it as like a good work ethic. I thought I was just being like a normal, regular worker. Like,
Yeah. Is that so? When you're younger and you leave college or university here, some kids just can't be bothered to work. Some kids. I'm not. There's only a small percentage, but can be lazy. Over there, is it once you leave college, that's it. You work. There's no being lazy. You must work.
Is that a question?
Yeah. Is that the way it is?
Yes. I think it works in that way, right? Like, I mean, I'm a big believer of like everything is about context,
Yeah.
So I don't believe in something to be right or wrong. I'm a huge believer of like everything has its space.
A reason. Yeah.
Everything has like good or bad, like both sides.
Yeah.
They need to exist, right? Like
definitely.
For example, like coming back to your point, like Japan, in one side is that people are a little bit people are not so entrepreneurial. People like to rely on like
be told what to do.
Yeah. And then also but on a flip side also, like they're loyal, like they're not necessarily creative or courageous, but then they have their value, which is to be loyal, to be hard worker, to be like, so those things.
Yeah.
It has to do a little bit with the way that education is set up in terms of like, how they farm creativity when you're growing up.
Yeah.
And I do definitely see that outcome like in the behavioral portion.
I totally understand that, because to be an entrepreneur, you almost need to be a bit rebellious and not stick to the rules, don't you? You need to be able to just do things differently. You know what I mean? Whereas,
sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I think one of the things that's very important that especially Japanese people cannot deal with is to be okay with uncertainty. It's definitely one of the things Japanese people are just not down for it.
Yeah. So saying that, how has COVID hit everybody then? Because obviously that's a massive uncertainty, isn't it? Has it affected you guys?
I mean, certainly, like from just with everywhere else in the world, it has certainly. But I think government definitely handled it in a way that there was no like unnecessary panic,
Yeah.
I mean, the media and the government, I think, created a good cooperation between together so that they managed the nation quite okay.
That's totally the opposite to here in the UK. Everybody panicked. Everybody emptied the shelves in the shopping centres. Everybody went crazy, running around. It's just, the government didn't know what they're doing. We didn't know what we were doing. It was a fucking shit show, to be honest. I'm sorry, but it was.
Yeah, no, I mean, I definitely hear you. It was kind of like that too. Like the feeling was kind of like that too.
I think the media have a lot to blame, because they're terrible. That obviously they want to sell papers, they want to sell their, so they have to make it nice and juicy. They have to make it controversial, and people read it and believe it, and then it all kicks off, basically.
Yeah, media is big.
Yeah.
Like I noticed the power of it also, and that's why I kind of like reshaped my career direction from being economic and business person to like now I'm more in media. Like I want to create my media empire.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, well that's my facts that were all completely wrong. So let's talk about you now. So tell us a little bit. Obviously, we're going to talk about how you got into writing your book, and you've obviously done lots and lots. But tell us a little bit about growing up in Japan. What school was like. Did you go college, university? How that all started?
Yeah. Oh, it's a lot of story. Well, I was born and raised in Japan.
Yeah.
And I did not go to. Well, I was a little bit international compared to other people.
Yeah.
because my mom was like a traveler and she traveled quite a lot. So I tagged along with her sometimes, but it was just like her hobby, right? Like nothing
Yeah.
was like a business related or anything like that.
Yeah.
So, but like for some reason, I knew that I was very international person. I clicked a lot whenever I went to travel, whenever I met foreigner people inside of the country, like whatever. Like I just felt clicking, right? Like, and then like I guess that exposure really made me a very curious person. Like growing up as a kid, I still remember I was very different from others. And it probably now I think of it, it wasn't so much that I was different, but it was more like I was willing and I was courageous than others.
Yeah.
So, you know, I was curious and I was authentic to my curiosity. So I mentioned this very quickly in my bio, my book, which I'm going to show you just real quick.
Ooh, let's have a look.
The Game of Self
Yes.
Domination. This is
Yes.
just author copy, so I still have the label, but it looks like this. And in the bio, I actually mentioned that I almost got kicked out from my high school.
Ooh.
And that was not because I was a bad student or anything like that, but it was just a sign that I was a different kid, right? And I was courageous, a little bit more willing than other kids, because I'm pretty sure that the curiosity I had as a kid, like everybody had it, but people just didn't want to be different, you know? Like, and then what gets you into trouble in the school system, the way it's set up in Japan, is for you to be different, basically.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and yeah, you can probably relate. Like it's pretty much everywhere else in the world as well.
Yeah, I mean, over here, just to butt in for a second. Over here,
Yeah.
if you have a bad student, someone
Mhm.
who's bad at school, they may be thrown out of school. Move to different schools. They may not get a very good education, and
Mhm.
then when they leave school, they might become brilliant entrepreneurs. It's just because they couldn't get on with the school system. They didn't like to be, stuck in a classroom being told
Mhm.
what to do, but they're still very intelligent.
Mhm. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I felt that way. Like I
Mm.
just couldn't deal with that. Like I hated to be group, right? Like part of the group. So anyway, so what happened was I was a very curious kid growing up. So that was my first sign that by the fact that I was willing to the point where I was even willing to be kicked out by school,
Yeah.
like, I still wanted to be myself was more different. I mean, sorry, was more important for me
Yeah.
than fitting in.
Yeah.
So that happened. And then the next thing, the next courageous decision I made was obviously when I decided to move abroad. Like I didn't speak any English at that time and I didn't have any people that I knew. My family was old in Japan, like no one I knew, but I decided to just move to America. And then there I studied English. And then I also ended up studying business. And then there it comes my third courageous decision, which was most of the international student friends that I had, like their goal would be just, get the degree and, find a job at Microsoft or Google or like, places like that. And that's their end goal, right? And
Yeah.
once for all, like they're set. But
Yeah.
for me, it was slightly different. Like I actually decided to take some time off after I got my 2 years degree in business. So, basically here I was, I didn't know nobody. I didn't like speak the complete language at the time neither
Yeah.
still. And I barely had like a very small degree of business, right? Like I just decided to like, okay, well, let's just try. Like I'm here and I want to work with Americans, and this is amazing opportunity for me to like gain actual work experience. So
Yeah.
I basically moved to and then I found the internship at the University of Washington, and at that time I was already very into entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
I knew that there was something there.
Yeah.
So I started networking with other entrepreneurs, and eventually that got me in a position at the UW, right? And then I was able to meet a lot of technology entrepreneurs, and even investors and advisors, right? And then I was so inspired by them because they were very like macro thinker. Like they weren't thinking about, I mean, of course they were business operators, so they
Yeah.
would think about money tomorrow, but
Yeah.
more than that, they were thinking about like how the technology is going to help the humanity, like at
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
very macro level. And that really elevated the way I was approaching to the
Yeah.
humanity.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that was initially why I developed this ambition of like, I want to contribute in that channel. Like I
Yeah.
want to contribute my conversation around that channel.
Yeah, they had
So
big,
that's how,
they had big ideas,
yeah,
not just thinking about what's happening straight away, but what's going to happen in the future.
exactly.
And what? So, just going back, when you left
Yeah.
Japan and came to America, what was
Mhm.
that like? Changing that culture? Was it a massive eye opener? Was it like, wow? What was it like?
It felt like I was coming home more.
Yeah,
Like it's just like it was so exciting, you know? Like yeah, new start. And I felt so furious. I didn't have anything to lose.
yeah,
And I was just excited to meet new people. I think at that time, it evaluated them as people I could relate to a little bit more than a lot of people that I knew back in Japan, because they were very like small minded and,
yeah,
you know, but anyway, so should I keep going with
yeah.
the
Go,
story?
yeah. You go for it.
Okay,
So,
so
okay, so we got to the bit where you met these people and they had
yeah.
big ideas, and that's when you thought, right, I'm going to
Mhm.
become an entrepreneur. Yeah.
Yeah. Actually, I didn't necessarily think I wanted to become an entrepreneur at that time. What message I got from that was more that I didn't want to focus on paper. What was, yeah, probably like I wanted to be entrepreneur, in another word. But I just knew that I needed to be capable. Like, you know, I wanted to see what is needed in a humanity, like for us to advance our capacity, like capability. So that's how I decided to slightly shift my major to economics, and then I studied economics after that. And then it comes my fourth courageous decision as as this international student
Yeah.
of, you know, from some foreign country. So anyway, so what happened was I decided, like I'm getting so comfortable here, like nothing is challenging me anymore. I speak good English now. I got my degree on and everything. Like I even got the work experience, like, you know, in school. And I decided to pack up everything and I decided to move to Florida, Miami.
Oh, nice. Love Florida.
And yeah, like I just knew that there was something there, you know? And it was exactly like, now I think of it, I know what it is, what it was exactly. Like I was looking for that suffering again. I was looking for that challenge, like a real life challenge, like of change, right? Like I wanted to be capable of change management. And also I wanted to see I was too comfortable, right? Like I felt like, you know, like I wanted to be really okay in the wild. Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, like you think about it, from like Washington State to Florida, like
Yeah.
it's the opposite
It
spectrum.
sounds to me like after a while you get bored. You
Yeah.
like to keep moving, keep thinking, keep creating. You're
Mhm.
very, aren't you? You don't like to just stick in the same plate. You like to always be thinking and challenging yourself.
Yeah. When I get comfortable, that's how I usually roll. But
Yeah.
not to say that I don't have perseverance, because this is one of the big topic I talk about, creating patience and perseverance
Yeah.
is in my book.
Yeah.
So what happened was I fortunately, well, that actually came down like really tough. Like it was just, I was so struggling. Like especially when I first moved, like I didn't have a place to live. Like I didn't have money, like nothing, you know?
Yeah.
So I like at one point it got so unstable that I had to move from one place to another in a matter of weeks. Like that was like
Yeah.
that bad, right? And
Yeah.
I had to experience it because I never experienced anything like that, right? Like it was so wild. So I did that, and what happened was I very fortunately found position. Actually, I'm just gonna skip a little bit of it
Yeah.
because it's
Yeah. Yeah.
really long. But what happened was I fortunately finally found a position that made me happy. It was like a business consulting role in this business consulting company. And I worked there. I met my mentor, and the life was good. But the Olympic was going to happen this year, and we well, actually, I came back eventually because I knew that there was opportunity here, right? Like with Olympic and everything like that. So I came back and I was still selling their service in Japan, right? Like, so I basically shifted to like more of like a salesperson at that point. But at some point we decided to kind of go in a different direction. And at that time I was also developing my own, like a clothing business, right? Like it was online business.
Clothing? Where did that come from?
No, I mean, I like I'm the type of person who try everything at ease because I love myself. I know that I love myself even if I fuck it up. Like So anyway, so that happened, and then I was working on that for a while, and I basically decided to make that like a service brokerage company as my own thing, like Foreign Connect. That's how Foreign Connect is born. So now I help company businesses in 3 different pillars, but basically I'm the connector. So for Japanese companies, I would help you to operate a business abroad by connecting you with services abroad, like from local market. So that's what I do. And then
so when you came back to Japan, were you homesick? Did you miss America? Will you go back to America? What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, hell yeah. I mean, I think I'm American. Like I look Japanese, but I'm completely more American than I think most of the Japanese people.
You've got the accent. You've got the accent, an American accent.
Yeah. Well, I do miss it, but at the same time, like I'm so thankful. Like like it's just like really amazing. Like because I know that this isn't gonna be also permanent either. Like I know that I'm gonna move out of Japan sometime.
Yeah.
So like rather than focusing on scarcity, I try to focus on the fact that I have a great time that I get to spend with my family, my friends, and like stuff like that. So yeah, I mean Japan is not bad. It's not gonna be permanent, but
Okay, so that's growing up. That's what you're up to now. That's work. And then the other side of you is all about your book. And so how did this all come about where you're talking about anxiety, depression, meltdown and things like that? Is that something that's always interested you?
Yeah, well, not necessarily those topics, because like I have suffered from some of them, but like never really to the extreme point. Like I'm always a really happy person. I'm a very positive person. But this is just part of my characteristic. But what I'm interested in is like practical productivity, like practical positivity and productivity, like that's what I'm focusing on. And basically so I'm gonna slide in this story. So how Life Up started basically is that with the Foreign Connect, like when I came back, I had to really do digging, like really deep digging into myself of what I wanted in my life once again, because it's a completely new chapter once again. And I noticed that one thing I noticed was, my ambition toward wanting to contribute to the advancement of humanity didn't change. So I wanted to create conversation around that. And that's why how Life Up Education is born. And the biggest mental block and also the biggest asset, I believe, is mindset, right? Like you got to be emotional for creating anything, really. So I wanted to talk about that. I wanted to focus on that and talk about that. And I mean, throughout my courageous journey, I mean, I've started a business a few times, and I've also moved around and, just like doing a bunch of crazy stuff. Like I had to face times where I had to really make shift in my mindset in terms of, like being bored and depressed from like, or even like beaten up by the situation
Yeah,
and being negative. From that to like, I got this. Like I have no other option, but I have to be strong.
Yeah.
And for me to kind of start taking the ownership, I really needed to create the mental transformation and mental shift.
Yeah. And I think that comes across when you talk about how you grew up and traveling. I think it's life experiences are going to hit you. And because you're traveling to a foreign country, you don't know, when you move to, you said Miami, you're going to get things hit you, and it's how you react to that, isn't it? You can't just sit in a dark corner. You have to react to it, and you reacted to it very positively with you. A lot of the time it is using that mindset, isn't it?
Yeah. And I mean, I directly translate your positivity with you being strong, like if you're not strong, you can't stay with the positive outlook. I think people kind of miss that like perspective. I mean, like people, like happy people are not happy. Like people, happy people are not the happy ones. Like happy people are the ones that's strong, that's willing to create the passion again, even if they're beaten up.
Yeah.
And that's very hard to do. Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I know you say being strong, but it's not just sort of being, because some people are quiet, some people are shy. What I think it is, and I've spoke about this before on the podcast, is when you're in situations that are uncomfortable, you must push through. It's fear, isn't it? It's getting through that fear, because when you feel uncomfortable, if you push yourself to do whatever you feel uncomfortable about, when you come out the other side, you feel so much better. And I think strong, it's having that will to just push yourself and get, if you're uncomfortable, go with it. If you know it's right, go with it. It's hard, and you need to be strong. But it's not sort of, strong, I'm strong. It's more about the mindset of, tackling fear. Fear's a big thing. Do you think that?
Yeah, it's more like a mental strength.
Yeah.
And I think why don't people do that? That's because they're insecure and they don't know how to love themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, they're so afraid of changing the perception about themselves. Right? I mean, according to food though, right? According to, like really, like the thing is like it takes very good amount, well, it takes an extreme amount of self-esteem, and it takes, I mean, for you to have that self-esteem of like, look, even if I fuck it up, even if like I fail, I make mistakes,
yes,
like I'm willing to love myself, right?
Yeah,
Like
definitely.
that takes courage, that takes mental strength.
Yeah, definitely.
People don't want to do that,
Yeah, definitely. That's well said. That is, because this day and age, the way the world is, it's moving so quick. You have to find that willingness and not worry what other people think. Because we can all have an easy life, can't we? We can all just stay at home all day watching telly. We can all have an easy life, but will you feel fulfilled if you do that? And the answer is, for a lot of us, is no, isn't it?
Yeah. So I think it takes, this is actually one of the things I talk about in my book, is also the importance of self-awareness. Like there's a quote from the ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, where he says, happiness is virtue activity of the soul.
Yeah.
And from there, I basically developed this concept around meeting your identity circle. So I'm going to tell you what in my book, I tell you like, what does it really mean to meet your identity circle, which I explain as this circle that if you master this circle, like you said, like, we're not necessarily, we don't want the money, right? Like we want the journey to get the money. We want the inspiration to strive us. And then essentially into the direction we want to grow for. So by that quote, happiness is a virtue activity of the soul, is to say, we are driven by two different directions. So bear with me. I'm gonna go over, but bear with me. So we tend to see our motivation as two things. One is threat, one is motivation, one is reward.
Yeah.
And we tend to see them as like opposite side of the spectrum, right?
Yeah.
But in reality, reward only exists in the extension of the threat. So you're facing your challenge, you're facing like your uncomfortability or whatever that challenges you, right?
Yeah.
And then only by overcoming these challenges, this threat, you are truly able to meet your reward, which is to be yourself.
Yes.
To grow into the direction you want to grow into, right? And then that's what unlocks the feeling of fulfillment.
Yes. Yeah.
So that is something that I talk about, and I wanted to really dig deeper into that, and that's why I developed this identity circle, which is basically to tell you like who you are really about. And I truly believe that people are not lazy. Like, you're just lost, right? Like if you feel like you're lazy, you're not lazy, you're lost. Like, you don't know what you want. Like, that's it. So the thing is, like, you can just find what it is that you want. And I mean, it's not going to come in like a year, 2 year, like 3 years. Like, there's no guarantee when you find it. But if you give up now, like, you lose right now. You know what I mean? Like, you have to be willing to find that.
Yeah.
I think when you are able to meet that identity circle, when you're able to really align your interest into the real person that you want to become, like, it's a lot easier for you to take ownership of everything you do, and really makes you stronger, and also makes you willing to love yourself even if you fuck up. But into the direction you are trying to grow into.
No, that's brilliant what you said there. That's definitely true. So the book. So let's talk about the book then. The Game of Self Domination. So you've got all these ideas, and where does the idea come from? Right, I'm going to write a book, because you haven't written books before, have you?
This is my first book.
This is your first book. So where did that come from? What made you think, right, I'm going to write a book?
Well, I really wanted to develop my media outlet, which was Life Up Education TV. And I, once again, like, I'm a strong believer in mindset. Like, mindset is really big portion of if one succeed or not, right? So I just really wanted to create a mental tool that I could use for myself, like, to keep reminding myself that, like, mindset is number one fact and something that you can control. So you're responsible of it, right? Like, and I was basically wanting to use this tool, and I was sharing this insight to the other people, and people are like, you should write a book. Like, you have this, like, really strong, powerful, like, positive insight. That's not just like positive, but like practical positivity. You should write it. And I'm like, okay. And I wrote it because of that, but also because I really wanted to get that, like,
get the message across.
Yeah, I'm drinking with the word, but what I meant to say is, with the Life Up Education TV, right? Like the show, I just wanted to create that brand around that.
Right. Okay. And how did you find writing the book? Was it difficult, or did you find that it was just easy? The words just flowed out. How did you find that?
It was actually easy. I think it's so strange and funny that like, when I tell my friends, or when I tell my parents, or whoever, right? Like, I say, I wrote the book, and they'd be like, oh, nice. Like, you wrote it in Japanese, right? And I said, no, I wrote it in English. Like, that's the funniest part. And I guess writing wasn't really difficult, because I always had had different opinions or perspectives that I share with people, and people I get the positive feedback from. But what I was a little bit more nervous on is writing a book in another language. Like, I just didn't know if I could get my message across in the way I wanted to get my message, delivered to So which is probably the bigger concern I had at that time.
Yeah. No, it's a I get a lot of people that say, "Oh, I want to write a book," and there's a lot of people say, "Oh, I've got a great book that I could write," but it's doing it, isn't it? You know, we've all got a great book, but writing a book is hard. But when you've finished it, I suppose it's similar to when I write a script. Is when you've got that final product, there's like an energy, isn't there? There's an energy, and you're like, wow, I've completed this. This book is mine. No matter what happens in the world, no one can take this away from me. It's a great feeling, isn't it?
Yeah. If you put it like that, that's I never thought about it like that, but it's really wonderful and beautiful thing.
Yeah, definitely. So now the book. So you've talked a lot about the book. It covers anxiety, depression, and meltdown. So is it like a self-help book, or is it just your ideas on what is it?
Yeah, this is self-help book, and I talk about how to create mental transformation in life from 3 different phases. The first phase, I talk about how to create momentum and decisiveness and commitment in life. Yeah. So basically to tell you, like, how can you finally start taking ownership of your life? And then the second thing, so in there, I'm going to create a lot of energy, right? Like, because momentum is all about like that decisiveness and huge part of that driven by emotion. Yeah. And the second phase, moving to the second phase, I start talking about how to create perseverance and faith in the destination you choose, right? Like, and I'm gonna give you whole kinds of narrative for you to create shifts in the mindset of like how you're looking at your failure, how you're looking at your life situation. Yeah. Like from going from like, oh, life is so hard, I don't want to try this.
Yeah.
And just like hit me, like give me the challenge. Like, so that's the kind of the vibe I'm gonna create. And then the third phase, moving into the third phase, I guess relating to the second phase, which actually the third phase was the chapters that I got the most positive feedback from a lot of like my test leaders. Yeah. Which I actually just launched this book like a few days ago, like September 2nd or something like that. But anyway, so what happened is in the third phase, I start talking about, let's define the definition of success and happiness, because we've been redefining the definition of failure now until this point, which is like hands down absolutely master topic that we need to talk about if you want to do something on your own or if you want to create a change in life. Yeah, definitely. But there's not enough conversation around what are you really trying to achieve, or who are you trying to impress, like, which nobody, like, it's you versus you, like there's no one else. But there's not enough conversation around that. And on top of it, like, there's, I guess, the dynamic of, well, the age of the technology, right? Like, it just exposes us of our insecurity, and it just like makes it even more exaggerated on how it's important that you look successful. And that creates a lot of anxiety. That creates really, like, it doesn't put you in the right direction for you to be happier, for you to be actually successful. So I talk about that in the third phase.
I mean, some of that comes down to what we said earlier about media. Because you look on the media and they say to be successful, you need to do this and do that and do, so that's, some of that is to blame, isn't it? At the end of the day, media's a pain in the arse. I mean, it's great, we need it and we need to know what's going on, but it really does.
I think it's just everything that we're given today is tool. Like, they don't change us. It's us who are doing it. And we're just using those tools to expose. So really, like, the media, the narrative and everything, like what media says, like, is there, right? But then the default is us. Like, we need to work on us. Like, we always had insecurity. We always had all these feelings that we have to deal with. And the media is just exposing us to be who we are,
Yeah. Good point. Okay, so that's the book. Now, tell us a little bit about Life Up Education TV, because this is your TV channel, isn't it? So tell us a little bit about this.
Yeah. So the concept is very similar. I wanted to cultivate the conversation around the possibility of humanity. I talk about it from the perspective of arts and science because there's a difference. Arts is something that's more emotional, and which is really the fundamental cause of any action. So it's definitely very important topic. So there we talk about, hopes and dreams, which sounds kind of like Lara, but it's really important and it's really real thing. And then the science, I talk about processes. Like, I would have a guest, for example, creators. I would have a creator guest. I would also have, like a technology entrepreneur, which actually I had in my last episode. I'm planning to have like scientists come on too, but basically I want to talk about their processes and then how we can use their process, the way of thinking in those processes to apply in our daily life to maximize our performance level, right?
Yeah. I mean,
So
that sounds fascinating because you've got science on one side. Now, science is science. If someone says, the grass is green, the sky is blue, the science is science is science. And that's great and it's interesting. But then the other side, from a creative point, is, and religion's a great one. I believe in God. Well, science is saying, well, prove it. And, the person saying, well, I can't prove it, but I believe it. And it makes me feel better. So, and it's the same, creative, I want to create something. And the scientists say, well, you can't. And the creative saying, well, I'm going to try. So it's good to have those two sides, isn't it? Because they're both very interesting.
Right.
And I think, go on.
Sorry, I meant to say one thing. Actually, I heard what's very interesting. I had the one guest. I think he's a mechanical engineer, and he has like a very very technical background, and he's good with numbers, and he likes engineering and stuff like that. But he described maths or the science basically to say like a one method within the language for art. Which I thought was very interesting. And I think it could be very possible. I mean, like we came this far because of our creativity. Like that's what separates us as a human from the rest of the beings. Like
that's a whole nother conversation, isn't it? A whole new conversation on that. So going forward, so you've got your TV channel, you've got your book. What are you looking to do in the future? What are you thinking about? I would dread you must have so many things you want to do. I can just tell. What's the next step?
I mean, like I get this question a lot, but for me, like I'm just like I'm in for everything I do for the long game, and like for me, I'm more comfortable for having like 3 or 4 different things going on. And then just focus on that,
Yeah.
So I'm in for the long game.
Yeah.
I'm gonna keep doing Recording Connect.
You take it as it comes.
Yeah.
I'll bet you're thinking about another book.
Yeah, but not now, really. Like I just launched one, and I want to focus on I want to focus on spreading the message about that. And actually, it's kind of funny because I'm a funny person, which this personality didn't come too much this time. But I like comedy. Like I like to laugh. I like to make people laugh. So I have 2 different channels that I create contents on, and I'm trying to infuse a little bit more comedy in Life Up Education.
Yeah. I mean, this podcast, it can be quite serious, but I always like to try and have a little bit of humor in it as well, because, you've got 2 sides, haven't you? Yes, we've got to be serious. We've got to talk about important things, but you've got to be positive, and along with positivity is humor and, you know,
Yeah.
just smiling. Uh,
Mhm.
so what if you were to talk to someone or your younger self? What advice do you think you could give someone who maybe is not feeling very positive at the minute, or is struggling with
Mhm.
thinking what they're going to do next, or maybe they're uncomfortable about something? What advice would you give them? Because obviously you've done all that. You've come out your comfort zone. You've pushed
Right.
yourself. What advice could you give people?
Like advice to someone who's feeling negative or
Well, yeah, feeling negative, struggling maybe a little bit.
feeling negative. If I focus on people who are feeling negative, I would say stop being victim. That's
Mhm.
like my number one advice.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, negative. Yeah, negative people. Yeah, that's
And
the way
what
to go.
about if someone's facing something uncomfortable? So, you faced, you must have faced when you moved to America, you must have been worried.
Mhm.
When you changed jobs, you must have been worried. What advice would you
Right.
give to someone who's maybe feeling uncomfortable about a situation?
You will fail if you suck. That's my But really, like that's it. I mean, what are you worrying about? I mean, you will fail if you suck. That's it. Like if you want to be better, like you have to be better.
Hmm. Yeah,
Like otherwise you will fail. So like
yeah,
don't focus on like what if I don't, like there's no alternative. Like there's no like what if, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
what is happening is what is happening. And you gotta face that
yeah,
and just
yeah,
work on that. Like it's okay. Like if you fail, like so what? Like are you gonna stay there? Like no. Like
yeah,
so
yeah.
don't worry, just do.
Just do. Just do it, Nike. Oh my God.
Yeah,
Now,
that's my
so
message.
now, if people want to see your TV channel
Yeah.
or purchase your book, where can they find all that information?
Yeah. So my book is called The Game of Self Domination. The Game of Self Domination.
Yeah, look at that.
You can
It
buy
looks
it
like.
from
Go on.
hey, you can buy it from my Amazon. Just type in the Game of Self Domination.
It'll come up.
And you can also buy it from my website, lifeupeducationtv.com. And actually, I'm doing giveaway. If you're down for it, I'm
Yeah,
gonna give a free copy for your listeners.
yeah,
If
that'd be
anyone's
great.
interested.
Yeah,
And I can like set you up the instruction for how that can happen. But
yeah, that'd
basically,
be
what I want is an honest review on Amazon, and yeah, we'll get you
yeah.
a copy.
Definitely, that'd be great. I'd love to read it. I really look forward to reading it. It looks like a long book, though. You've got a lot of pages in there, haven't you?
Yeah, no, that the reason is because I wanted to make sure that people are making progress. Like, I mean, people are feeling like they're making progress because before, like, I compacted a lot that, like, each chapters were very like long. But I wanted to. That's why, like, my editor actually said, like, oh, you should break them down a little bit more. So what happened is, it's actually not that long book. Like, I can if you're a fast leader, you can probably read it in like 2 days or something like that, like 1 hour, 2 hours each day, one and a
Yeah,
half maybe.
yeah,
But I broke them down a lot in a smaller section.
yeah,
So
yeah.
there's like 17 chapters inside.
Yeah. It looks like you've got photos and diagrams and things like that in there as well, which is always good because
Right,
it's not just a big chunk of text. Yeah, I
right.
like that. I like that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Visual.
thank you. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I have the graphs too. But anyway,
Brilliant stuff.
yeah.
Brilliant. And then the TV station, how would people watch that?
Oh, it's a web based, so you can search me on YouTube, but you can also see me on my website, Life Up Education TV.
Oh, right. So if we just go onto YouTube, Life Up Education TV, it's on there.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, I always ask my guests if they've got a favourite. I don't know if you've brought a favourite along, just something that maybe a film, a TV, or a food, or a song, or something like that that's inspired you, or maybe you've really enjoyed that other people could maybe look, watch, or listen to. Have you got
Right.
brought a favourite?
I mean, people, I have so many.
Yeah.
Probably the biggest person I was listening to when I decided to create Shift, or whenever I face
Yeah.
adversity, is definitely Tony Robbins.
Oh,
I
right.
love
Okay.
Tony. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
I like Gary too. I like many people. I like Tom Bilyeu too.
All
Like,
right.
do you know Tom Bilyeu? He has
I've
a
heard of him. I've heard of him. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard of him. Yeah.
He has a show called The Impact Theory, and that's my goal. Like, my vision with it. I felt this somewhat similar between Tom Bilyeu, The Impact Theory, and then the Ellen DeGeneres show, the
Oh,
Ellen
right. Okay. Cool.
show.
Yeah. So anyone really that motivational speaking or, trying to make an impact, that's sort of your favorite thing that you listen to and helps you.
Hmm. Yeah,
Okay. Cool.
and
Excellent.
I mean, I don't know. Like, I spend a lot of time thinking about that. Like I think it's Gary who started this message, like motivational thinking is garbage or something like that. But I think there's a tremendous value in that too. And I think,
Gary who? Gary?
oh, Gary V, like Gary Vaynerchuk.
Oh, right. Check. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Like, and I mean, after that point, like when he started saying like, oh, motivational speaker sucks or something like that, like people started saying that, like a lot of motivational speakers, supposedly, like these people like started saying that. But like, I mean, it's I don't know, like, I mean, like you said, there's art, right? Like,
Yeah.
what's helpful for um you is what's helpful.
Yeah.
And
That's it. It's not going to be the
like,
same.
there's no right or wrong
Yeah.
answer.
That's right. That's right. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think, and also now and again, I'll get things pop up on my Facebook and that from Tony Robbins. I don't know why. And I have
Mhm.
watched a couple of his videos, and he's an interesting guy. He's a nice guy. And some of the things he says is very poignant. Obviously, it's all Americanized and all that kind of thing. But when you just listen to the little tidbits that he says, he's a very clever guy and a very genuine guy. And it's always
Yeah.
interesting. Always
Hmm.
interesting. And you can search him on YouTube and anywhere. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. He's
definitely.
super huge in America, anyways.
Yeah. Brilliant. Okay. Now, I always say the guest can finish on sort of a poignant story or something they just want to say, or just something maybe they want to send across to the listeners. Is there anything you want to sort of, any advice or a story or anything you think's poignant?
I mean, we covered quite a lot of things right
Yeah.
today, so
Yeah.
I'm very happy, and I'm so thankful that you invited me today.
Yeah. It's
And
an absolute pleasure. I
I
think,
think,
go on.
mhm, maybe one very last message. I mean, I
Yeah.
have many, to be honest.
Yeah, I guess that.
Um, but I guess what I just feel right for me at this very moment, just
Yeah.
because right now, is that, like, stop judging,
Yeah,
like,
it's a good point. Yeah, that's a
yeah,
good point. I
start,
put I put that on the podcast. Stop judging, and I think that's
yeah.
important this day and age because everybody's different, and we don't know the stories behind people, and it's so easy to judge. So I definitely think that's a good one, and that links in with positivity as well,
Mhm.
because we can all see the bad in people, but we should try and see the good in people. And
Yeah.
not judge them because everybody's in a different situation. So that's a really good point. One point I would say about yourself, Natsune, is that you're very brave. I would say you're a very brave person. You're a light. You'll push yourself. You'll move to all these different countries, and you probably don't see it yourself, but you're very brave, and that will shine a light on other people and encourage them and make them positive. So I think it's important you keep doing what you're doing because you're going to have a really good impact on the world, and that's what you're trying to do.
Oh, I'm very grateful for that. Thank you so much.
No, well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. I'm so glad you came on all the way from Japan, and come back next year. Let us know how you're getting on next year. Come back on the podcast because I know you're going to have done. This time next year you'll have probably done another book, another TV show. Probably back in America. God knows where you'll be.
We'll see.
Brilliant. Thanks ever so much for coming on, Natsune, and I'll speak to you again. All right?
Sounds good.
Okay, bye. So that's it. Massive thanks again to Natsune for joining me today, all the way from Japan. And also you for listening. Make sure you follow the podcast, because coming up over the next month, there are some extraordinary interviews. Trust me, Japan, is that it? Japan? We go a lot further afield than Japan. Trust me, it's going to be awesome. The podcast will be streaming on the usual platforms, including iTunes and Spotify. So please, please, please leave a rating on there. 5-star, boom, and subscribe. We need these listeners to come in. The more, I promise you, the more people that subscribe and listen, the more extraordinary the guests will get. To keep up to date, follow Facebook, which is My Way of Thinking Podcast, and also on Twitter, My Way of Thinking, but without a G on the end, a 3 instead. Every week, I also put the whole conversation on YouTube with my pretty little face. And if you just put in My Way of Thinking podcast onto YouTube, that will come up. And finally, if you want to get in touch, you may think you're a great guest. Get on here. Email me. The email's mowatpodcast@aol.com. I'm glad that's all over with. Right. Thanks ever so much for listening in, and I will speak to you next time. God bless. Take care.